For week 1, the quote I've chosen is the description of the Hotel of Bees. Because when I read that, it was like I was just in the hotel instantly. I could smell the woodwork and I could hear the floorboards creak, and just it was such an amazing experience for me. I've designed the Hotel of Bees shell, and so I'd like to ask you, where did you draw the inspiration from for the Hotel of Bees?
Yeah, unlike many of the locations in Saint-Malo, the Hotel of Bees is totally invented. There
Yeah.
was no real Hotel of Bees. But as you walk around that amazing place, and those of you who've been lucky enough to go there, it's just so evocative. You know, it's so hard for me as like an ignorant American to believe that almost the whole city was rebuilt after the war, because it looks so old. And they did use many of the granite blocks that built up the walls in the city that were shattered and blown apart. They did use them to rebuild the buildings. And there's very interesting, like there's historians who can see where lichen and moss, you know, is older than the war, and there's people who can tell which buildings are restored and which are not. But there's so many details. There's so much woodwork in the city. There's these huge old beams, and those are so evocative for me because they're a reminder that there were big, big forests in France that don't exist anymore, and very old trees. And, you know, so there's almost like an ecological story in that, that not only did they destroy these ancient forests to build some of these houses, but then when the Second World War comes, these big old beams are burned, and we've lost those huge trees for a second time, in a way.
Yeah.
But I just would look at all these details, the stonework and the woodwork on these old houses, these mansions that the wealthy pirates and corsairs and fishing captains would build. And so I'm not exactly sure where, when. I doubt I saw an actual honeycomb design or anything like that. I just started thinking, you know, if you had that much money and that time and all these craftsmen working for you, you know, maybe you loved bees. And so I just imagined some wealthy guy, like, you know, playing out in the countryside with bees and in love with nature, and maybe incorporating those designs into his house. And then as the city matured and grew older through time, it would become a hotel. I was looking for something. I had the number 4 Rue Vaugirel, where Etienne lives, and I thought, you know, I needed something pretty close that a short transmission could reach. So I just started looking around the walls for maybe where I could situate a hotel, an imaginary hotel.
Yeah. But it's amazing how you can imagine something like that.
Oh, that's nice. Well, it's amazing how you can imagine a blanket. Like I could make a shawl from anything. So it's just practice, you know. It's like for my job, I could dream, and you're always I'm always fusing research and imagination in some way. And sometimes the real world can be so real, and there's so many details that it's almost overwhelming. And so sometimes it's good to walk a city for a while with a notebook, but then also go into a dark room or a very quiet room and start to dream, because you need certain elements for a story that aren't always provided for you in real life.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you for sharing.